Pregame.com.
Saints at Falcons. New Orleans opened 1.5, total 51.5. It's now down to a pick'em. Totals at 50. This one's for first place in the division. This is your pick. Who do you like?
I'm going to take the under here. And a lot of the reason is because this game has such meaning. This could end up determining who's going to win this division this year. You ever get one of those times where you're just kicking yourself, you know something, and then after the games are played, you say, you know what, I knew that was going to happen. The same thing happened last week when Tampa Bay played New Orleans.
Yeah.
I knew that game was going under, and I didn't bet the under, and I knew it all along, and I kept kicking myself. I'm not going to kick myself this week. I'm going to go out and do it. I take a look at the way the Saints approach their divisional games. Their last 15 games into their division, 13 of those games went under. Out of the 2 that went over, 1 went over in overtime. So in regulation, 14 out of the last 15 divisional games for the Saints have gone under the total. That's the way the coach prepares his teams for these games. And with the meaning of this game being such a strong game for who's going to win this division, I expect a very conservative game plan. You take a look at the Saints on the road. They haven't scored more than 24 points only twice in the last 7 games. So they do all their scoring at home. On the road, it's a totally different team offensively. And the Falcons' defense hasn't permitted more than 28 points in the last 6 games. Last 3 games, the Falcons have given up 7, 16, 17. And that includes games against the Detroit Lions and the Carolina Panthers, 2 of the better offenses in the football league. So this is a situation where the total opened 51. It's been bet down a little bit. And we saw a lot of these games early in the season, and I made the comments, when you have 2 elite quarterbacks, if you remember this, first couple of weeks, 2 elite quarterbacks, you got to play the over. It's changed since then. 50, we were seeing lots of 50s early on in the season because these games were flying over. The market is corrected. There's been a lot more unders lately. Now it's basically a 50-50 situation. We're still getting something in that 50 range here. I don't understand it. If you take a look at the way these teams are going to approach this game, similar to the winning bet for the pizza that I'm going to have for next week, very similar situation. I love the under here. I think this is a great spot.
I agree with you totally, and I wish I would have got down at 51.5 or even 51. And that's, again, we talked about that in the last video. That's the second most important total. I think it's worth 11 cents, right around there. So it's lost a little line value, but I think this total is inflated enough that you're still getting the best of it at under 50. And 50 is one of those numbers where if you just bet blindly every NFL game under 50, you're up money over the last 10, 20, 30 years. You know, it's one of those trends that just continues decade after decade. Even with the offensive machine that's now become the NFL, it's still tough to go over 50, you know. I agree with that totally. I think the line's really, like, intriguing in this one. I've seen it dance around like no other line this week. Let me explain. The look ahead was New Orleans -1 last week, okay? No surprise that's where they opened it. But back when Cantor offered a line before the season started, they had Atlanta -3. The Hilton had them 2.5. And, you know, each week the Hilton updates their games of the year and changes the line. Before the weekly look ahead, on their games of the year, New Orleans was -2.5, -120 for this game. So in a matter of 2 weeks, it's totally changed. The perception has totally changed. And I don't think bettors are as confident in the Saints as they were early in the season.
When you lose to the Rams, straight up.
Exactly. And then, you know, there's just that, the way Breeze is playing. Last year, you credited the interceptions. You gave them the excuse they didn't have a running game. You know, if you're forced to drop back and pass and everyone knows what you're doing, you're going to turn the ball over. This year, it looks something mechanical to me. I mean, he's just not that quarterback he was 2 years back, you know, when they won the Super Bowl. I hope they fix it because I have a future on New Orleans. As far as line value goes, I think the value's on the Saints in this game on the side. I make New Orleans my true line -1.5 here, you know. If you add in a bias, because there was a bias on New Orleans, now there's not as much, you know. I would expect the fair line to have come out even higher. So I was a little surprised, not only when they opened 1, but now that it's down the pick. I think this is one of those games where the books have the best of it. They're going to get to sit back and collect all that vig. I think you're going to see just as much money come in on Atlanta as on the Saints from the bettors. And it's only going to take a huge steam move to see this line move anywhere where it's meaningful. I could see, you know, sharps trying to manipulate the money line, taking both teams at a plus. Otherwise, I think this is one of those games where the books get the best of it and they get to sweep up the vig. But I like the Saints. I just can't trust them on the road just yet. But in this series, the road team has won 3 of the last 4. You know, they both play in domes, so I think that has something to do with it. You know, you're just as comfortable on the road as you are at home. Obviously, you don't have the fans, but at least the surface is the same. And for dome teams going outdoors, you have to factor that in, even at the pro level, I think. But in this one, it doesn't matter. Instead, I think I'm just going to follow your lead and go under here. When you look at the total margin, Saints are plus 52.5. So a regression is definitely expected, and no better time to look for that to happen than when you get a total up in that 50 range. So I agree with you on the under here.
All right. I don't have anything to add on the side in this game, but I do want to point out a couple things. First off, my Twitter account is at @BLeonardSports. And also, I'm competing in the Cantor Gaming handicapping contest, a 16-person contest. We were lucky enough to advance to the second round, and this Friday we're meeting again for round 2. And so anybody who's interested can either listen to the contest on the radio, or come on down to the M at midnight Friday night and introduce yourself. It'd be nice to see some of the listeners and people who are hang out at pregame.com.
You're going to win the whole thing.
That'd be nice.
You're going to win the whole thing. Don't forget pregame videos. Go to pregamevideos.com. All the videos, ours, Marco's, RJ's, are in the same thread. We go in and comment, answer any questions. I like to see what you guys think on our picks, because we do take these plays seriously. Like, we really look at which games we want to talk about. It's kind of like one of those little ego things where you want to be right and even win a pizza. So make sure you go in, check that thread out. It's going to do it for this week. I think Marco's going to come in and do a little video, one with me, one with you. So we ain't done yet. It's going to do it for now, though.